everyone. We are incredibly excited to be here today, House of Amazon for Cannes Lions. And today on the BTR Media podcast, we're interviewing Ekta Chopra from e.l.f. Beauty and Jeff Cohen, tech evangelist from Amazon. Today, what we really wanted to dive into is, one, just the overall success of e.l.f. and the splash that you all have made with some of your big marketing campaigns. I think one of the most exciting ones and probably the most top of mind for everyone here is the Judge Judy Super Bowl campaign. So I would love to just hear from you the idea behind that. How do you guys come to the conclusion to launch something as big as that campaign?
Yeah, I mean, I think it all started with, everything at e.l.f. starts with an insight. So last year we had an insight that the big game has 50% female audience. But there was no ads for a beauty brand or anything that was catering to them. So we started with our Jennifer Coolidge, which was amazing. And then that campaign we brought to life in less than almost 3 weeks. And if you think about, that's unheard of in sort of our space. And we took the learnings from that. It did extremely well. And we took the learnings from that and we did made a big splash this year, but this time we did a national buy. And once again, we went with the iconic Judge Judy, Judge Beauty. And then we actually took a really big approach to make it a 360 campaign. So
that is incredible. I'm a part of that 50% female audience that's sitting there, like, watching all the commercials.
Always upset, like, where's an ad for me?
Yes. And, you're sitting here, everyone's laughing, looking at their phone, and you hear Jennifer Coolidge in the background, and I think she did the dolphin noise, and I look up. And being in Amazon, like, the first thing I did is I went to Amazon, and I actually looked at kind of the funnel that you all had built out, and I think that was what was the most clever in my opinion. And I believe from everything I tracked on my end, you all ended up launching this brand new primer. It was kind of, I would say, revolutionary in terms of the sticky primer concept. Yeah. And it became #1 on Amazon in the category.
Absolutely.
Which is a testament to, hey, you drove this really crazy brand performance campaign and you're immediately seeing success within 3 weeks.
That is correct. Yeah.
So you take that and internally you're like, hey, we have proof of concept here.
Yeah.
Let's bring in all of these influencers, because I think beauty is a category where we've seen every celebrity starting to lean into, let's launch our own makeup brand, let's do this. So you brought in Meghan Trainor and so many other people.
I think it's really creating an amplifying noise around it, right? So if you think of, we have a hero product, we have hero brands and companies that we work with, Amazon being a great example of that. But then how do you now amplify the superpowers, right? So Amazon has their canvas of different, like Twitch and other things. And then we have our social power. How do you bring all this collective power together to make the biggest noise you can?
100%. And I have no idea how you do it in your role. I mean, personally, I'm familiar with e.l.f., of course, from walking a retail store. And then I have an 18-year-old sister who every time I hang out with her is like, have you seen the new e.l.f. lip oil?
Oh, my gosh.
I'm like, no. She's like, it's all over TikTok. I'm like, I don't TikTok. So it's been really cool to see. But how do you take a campaign like that and maximize it? I mean, you're lean. You talk a lot about being a profitability-focused company still.
Absolutely.
That's difficult with your margins. So how do you back into a campaign like that and use it for all of the platforms that you all have?
Yeah, and I think once again, it starts with an insight, and then it is about serving our community. Everything has to be around the community, and every channel has their uniqueness, right? So if I think about TikTok, very unique. The creators that are there, very unique to what's on Instagram. We're very in tune with all these channels, and then how you bring to life on Amazon is very unique, right? You have Amazon Live, you have ads, you have freebie, you have all these different components, and you have to tailor the content for that channel. So we really do take an approach on really studying who the audience is, who the community is, and building our 360 campaign that targets each channel in a very unique way, but never losing the focus around the product, focus around our superpowers, which is value, and we do it in a very e.l.f. way. It's like, e.l.f. did what? Like, it's a very head-turning moment, and that's what's really unique about e.l.f.
Well, one of the other things that I would also add is that e.l.f. has been a very Amazon-first company.
That
right?
is correct.
And so you guys really kind of built your brand off of Amazon, or built it up from Amazon. And then you have used, Amazon as a key
Springboard.
for other things that you've been doing. So I think it was only natural when you guys were doing the first campaign that you were thinking about how does this impact Amazon, because it's such a critical channel for you. And then when you did the second campaign, you had all of the learnings. And I think some of the things that I like to think through is like, what are the insights that got us to this point?
Yeah.
Because a lot of people listen to this podcast and they're like, but I'm not e.l.f. and I can't do a Super Bowl ad. And I'd love to, and I think what's awesome about
Anything is e.l.f.ing possible, though.
it is. But I think what's awesome about e.l.f. in general is how you guys have taken risk.
Yeah.
And today we're talking about a huge risk with the big game, a huge risk with entering a market that hasn't traditionally been targeting females.
Yeah.
But you took a lot of other risk along the way that built up the confidence in yourself and in your leadership in making the decisions to be able to make these kind of investments.
If I can say, this is a great point, but it starts with our origin story. So 20 years ago when e.l.f. started selling makeup for $1 online, nobody would have thought that you can sell $1 makeup online, right? So it does start with our origin story of being the digital native and taking the risks and just leaning in. And once we see signals, we lean in hard. So last year was a big signal, and this year, once again, we went to the market with a national buy. There was a reason behind it because we had so many learnings, to Jeff's point.
And you move so quick. I mean,
Yeah.
Jennifer Coolidge was becoming big again because of White Lotus, I feel like.
Yeah.
That whole White Lotus on Netflix ended up being a big deal. And then immediately after, you all are like, let's turn this around in 3 weeks. Let's pick someone. And the timing couldn't have been better.
Yeah.
And I think this is something Jeff and I have talked a lot about is Amazon moves quick. Just even from the advertising side, about every week I'm on LinkedIn of like, oh, this changed, this changed, this changed. So you take that and you all were able to do that at the Super Bowl level, move that quickly. And I think that's a big testament to the future of the industry. What brands are going to be successful? It's the brands that are able to lean in really quick and test and learn.
And read the signals, right?
Read the signals.
The signals
Exactly.
are there. The signals are there, and they have been there, but you have to now read them in a different way.
They're new signals.
And then and they're new signals. You have to read them in a different way, and then you have to act upon them. Because I know we want to talk about this year's campaign, but I know that the growth of last year's campaign, I heard their CMO speak about this, and what she said was that they heard Jennifer Coolidge like on something making a dolphin sound.
She said that was her. Somebody asked her, I believe, like, what is your dream? And she said, I want to be a dolphin.
Yes.
And that was a signal for us. So that's why, like, staying really in tune with, the cultural moments is a big part of this as well.
Yeah, so it's not hard, but it's not easy, right? And so I think, as you and I always talk about, it's like there's a building moment that you get to do these types of things, but you build a culture inside your business and you build a management inside your metrics that allow you to build upon the signals that you have and continue to invest.
We call it the speed of culture, right? Like, you have to be able to move at the speed of culture. And that goes back with, keeping your ears to the ground and really listening to your community. And our community knows what they want.
Yeah.
They're very passionate about, sort of things that they love, and they're big e.l.f. fans.
Yeah.
So we get so much from our community. I mean, my CMO reads probably every single comment on social every day. I know it because I get texts. Everybody gets texts, and then everybody's like, oh my God. We call her Captain Obvious.
So hundreds of signals, thousands, if not millions, of comments and reshares. How do you sort through the noise and prioritize? How do you kind of find that balance of finding stability in the insights that you should be moving on, but also sort through the noise of everything you shouldn't?
Yeah, that's a great question. There's plethora of data, and I think it's about how do you get those insights that are actionable. That's like the number one thing. You can't action on everything, but to your point, we do have a weekly meeting which is around consumer insights. It's led by our head of consumer insights, and that's where our social teams and all our channel marketing teams come together. And it could depend on, hey, cultural moment, trend that we're seeing, or a campaign that we launch. Are we seeing something something where the assets are not, content is not working, or we need to swap out the content, but that action is taken right away. So that's sort of the idea, is like, how do you, not just to yourself, but build a DNA across the organization that is biased to taking action, right? Like for them, it's action is everything, and moving at that e.l.f. speed is really important.
And I think that's where a lot of people get tripped up, right?
Yeah.
And we've seen this over time, is that sometimes when you have all these signals, you can use those as a blocker for moving forward. And I think it's great that you guys have developed this cultural, insights in your business to say, take risk, take action, be okay with failure.
Yeah.
Because we're not talking about a campaign we're talking about a very successful campaign today, but I would assume there's been campaigns along the way
Absolutely.
that have taught you as well. And I think that's something that's important to build into the insights of what you're doing. And we've talked about this before, but it all comes back to junior high science, right? You create a hypothesis, and from that hypothesis, you go out and you run tests. You analyze the results, and then you make changes to run your next test. And we learned the scientific method at a very early age. We're just applying that in a different way to a different medium. But
in a very e.l.f. way. That's a very important thing, because there's so much data, and you could get analysis paralysis. So there is only so much that you can sort of read through data. There's the gut, there's the feel, there's the creativity, there's the fun, which that's where the brand ethos comes to life.
Yep.
But how do you tie the two in a meaningful way that delivers results, impact, and this engagement with our community?
You have stuck to those core values, and I think you've done an amazing job of walking the line of being bold and standing out. And something I 100% want to mention, because it meant a lot to me, and I saw it all over LinkedIn, is the Less Dicks in the Boardroom campaign as well. I think that was an absolutely incredible initiative that drove a lot of awareness, but I think a lot of larger legacy brands would have shied away from that because it was so bold. But something that you mentioned earlier is your audience and you know what they want to see. And you will have stayed close to that. Instead of trying to market towards everyone at the Super Bowl, you marketed towards your core female audience. And same thing for this campaign when it comes to the diversity and your beliefs of, women empowerment.
Yeah.
So do you want to talk a little bit about how you can make those decisions and how you can make sure that your values are being portrayed in everything you're doing?
Well, once again, it's serving the community and really standing behind sort of what we stand for, right? So if you think about, we're 1 in 4 publicly traded companies that have a very diverse sort of board, and so for us it was very important that why should we be the only one, right? And that was sort of the sentiment behind it, that we don't want to be proud of that. We want to encourage people so everyone can be proud of that. And I think that was a really core piece of this, is how do we make sure that we build something that almost creates a movement. And really creates, so other people can say, hey, we are now we're 1 of 5, we're 1 of 10, we're, so I think that's the idea behind it, is that how do you amplify that in a way where it encourages people to do good together.
And you're also speaking to the audience of who's using your product, right? I mean, as a father of a daughter, I look at that and go, I want, that's eye-opening to me, and maybe it's something I don't always think about, and I want my daughter associated with brands that are helping her be empowered, right? And so again, I think it goes back to it. If you're listening to this and you're thinking, how do I apply this to my business, it goes back to not what is e.l.f. doing? It's what are you doing, and how are you making these decisions for your brand? Are you just creating a brand that has a logo, or are you creating a brand that has an emotion? Are you creating a brand that actually serves a purpose? And then how do you bring that to life on Amazon, or how do you bring that to life in wherever it is that you're marketing your product? And you have so many different places you can bring that to life, whether it be your videos on your PDP pages, whether it be your stores, your post. There's so many places within Amazon to do it, let alone once you get outside of Amazon. And I think that's where I think you have to start thinking for yourself and for your business. And start creating your own guardrails of what you would do and what you wouldn't do and how you would double down on things. And then big, thing to think about is that, and maybe you can speak a little to this, is my guess is you have some desired outcomes that you want when you run a campaign. And then when you see those, that's when you are doubling down.
Yeah. I mean, I think, and of course you have to go back to, what is this campaign for? What are you serving, right? So if there's purpose-driven campaigns, there's campaigns that you're doing because you want to, introduce a new product, or whether it be, hey, this is going to be site only. So I do think it goes back to that, where you can measure the campaigns. But it also, for us, it's really important that whatever we do, we take a very holistic 360 approach to our campaigns, because you're not talking to, no longer, it's sort of the martini glass, effect of ads, right? It is very much is it a highball, like the right? Highball type of effect, right? Digital and physical is sort of merging, right? So how before it was very distinct that this is going to be performance media, this is going to be this is going to be this, and now it really is that 360 approach, and it's not impacting one channel, it's impacting the full, ecosystem of different channels that you're serving.
So do you want to talk a little bit more about that and
Yeah.
All the specific campaigns we've mentioned? I have truly seen on LinkedIn. I mean, I follow your whole leadership team, so that's probably why. But I mean, they're viral marketing campaigns. You all do a fantastic job of that, and I think it's a lot of the audience that you're working with is potentially the Gen Zers who are going to TikTok and they're sharing how passionate they are about your brand and your values. But as you said, attribution can get really, really messy. It's almost like we're going 100 years back of like, hey, this is just a lift test. Let's run this and see what sales do. But what all are you using to justify some of those uses when there's the touch points that we have?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the beauty of digital campaigns, number one, right? Before there was this fight around digital versus, TV and so forth. But if you think about today, we do marketing mix studies that tells us that every $1 that we spend on marketing, we actually get, a 4x return. That's very compelling. Like, that is very compelling.
That's an ATM machine that I would invest in.
Right? Yeah, and that's why everybody's investing in it, I guess. So I do think that it is about what's working, what's not working. Where do you, once again, it goes back to where we see signals, we do a test and learn. And if we see another signal, we double down. And we double down quickly. And
that's the speed. The speed is, I think, the biggest thing that you guys did.
Yeah. The speed from an insight to an action is what sort of, I would say, is our superpower.
Yeah.
There's many superpowers. That's one of them.
And I have a feeling just with UGC and the role AI is playing, that's not going to slow down. I think you all are going to continue.
Absolutely not. Yeah.
Is there anything you're really excited about in that space with just your creative teams?
So much. I mean, I think if you think about on-site search, that's a huge opportunity from an AI perspective. And then when you think about sort of the creative ecosystem and the ability to now quickly go from one image to 10 different image cuts, or putting, messaging that's tailored to a unique channel or a unique person and personalizing it, hyper-personalization is another sort of component there. And then there's a lot of internal efficiencies that we're going to be gaining. So we are, sort of testing and learning in all areas, and it's so exciting because this is the first time where I think, when you think about personalization in the past, the issue was content supply chain. You never had enough content to build those experiences. But now with AI, you can actually do that. And that's the exciting thing, is that you can really see the impact on the content supply chain.
Yeah, and I think what's cool about AI, and we're obviously talking a lot about AI this week at Cannes, right? Because it is changing the way creative is working, or it's evolving is probably a better way to say it, is that it's creating an opportunity for larger companies like e.l.f. to be able to take advantage of that, but it's also providing opportunity for smaller companies who maybe couldn't do this 3 years ago to be able to step in and have more micro-season type campaigns where they're able to, speak directly to an audience from a culturally relevant moment, right? So think about just being able to change your PDP copy or your store copy because of a culturally relevant moment. Yes, there's tent poles, right? Like Prime Day coming up or something like that. But there's also just these culturally relevant moments where you can really play into things and make quick changes.
Yeah.
But again, you can't just do it for the sake of doing it. You have to do it because you're trying to serve a purpose.
Yes.
And you have to be able to measure the results. And I think that as you get to being able to do larger studies like an MMM type of study, there's signals you can see along the way that are still kind of indicating that you're being successful in what you're doing.
Yeah.
And I think that, we're starting to unlock those with tools like Amazon Marketing Cloud. Those are available within just the ad console, even if you're not using a third-party tool. And I think that when it comes down to it, what you want to be doing as an advertiser or as a brand is really thinking through like I always think of it as like when beavers build dams, right? They start they kind of build a dam and then they move backwards and they build another dam. Yeah. They move backwards and they build another dam. So it's like what's the dam in front of you that you need to break down to open up the flow of the river? Yeah. You're like, where's this going? Right?
We're piecing it together here.
I do think tying it back to that comes down to we always want to be at the forefront of doing eyes, lips first. And that does mean, like, I'm really excited about Amazon Marketing Cloud because I do think that's like the next layer deeper of understanding what we're doing and, what's working, what's not working. So I do think it is very much about, just if you're on that sort of, what is this, the hamster wheel, doing the same thing again and again, then you're not going to see sort of those 10x results that you're going after. I do think it's a little bit about always eyes wide open, and that's what it's about. And then moving at speed, and that I saw a signal, okay,
yes.
I saw another signal, okay, I'm going to move, right? So it is very much, it's an iterative process, I would say.
And you all built the team foundation for that.
Yeah.
I mean, across the majority of the brands we work with, I think there's two big difficulties is, again, cost of creative and hyper-personalization. AI solving that. Mm-hmm. The second thing is it takes 3 months to get a brief turned around because it's such a bureaucratic org chart.
Oh my gosh.
But you all have built that and changed that through all of the principles that I think you've laid out. So now you take something like AMC, which allows you to segment by demographic and, path to purchase.
Yeah.
And you can say, hey, there's a 5% of our core audience, but we're going to serve an ad curated just for them.
Exactly.
And instead of going through a 10-page, 4-month approval process, you're like, no, my team is built and understands our vision, our values, and our core customer.
Yeah.
I'm going to trust them to take a risk, iterate on this creative, and serve a perfect ad on a platter to that customer.
Exactly. And I think that's the beauty of this, right? Is like the things that are being impacted to impact that full consumer journey, and that consumer journey is not linear. And I do think that that's a really important piece that's going to continue to evolve.
Amazing.
Well. Yeah.
Well, we've gone really broad. We've tied in some very specific micro actionable tips, I feel like, around attribution and speed to market. To kind of close up here, is there anything that you're just incredibly excited about in the next 3 years? Like, what is the biggest innovations that you're building with your team that you're ready to attack?
Well, continued partnership with Amazon, we're really excited about. I think we're just scratching the surface. So tools like Amazon Marketing Cloud, but then also leaning into, we work with Amazon's Innovation Lab as well. And the stuff that's coming out of there just gives me so much excitement. And if I think about, what's been really exciting is also we have a beauty squad, which is our 5 million loyalty members. It's also, Amazon's been so open to also, bringing that into the Amazon canvas. So I'm really, really excited about that. There's so much to be unlocked. And of course, AI, is a trend that everybody's going to talk about. But for us, it is how do we do that in a way which is serving our community? Yeah. There is a lot of noise around AI, a lot of different tools, but what do you do so you're truly serving your community and building and maintaining that trust because they're giving you that data. Without that data, AI doesn't work as well, right? So you have to be able to leverage that information to hyper-personalize and really serve that community. And I think that's an iterative process that we're going to go through.
I love it. I mean,
Yeah.
Jeff and I have hopped on so many of these interviews, and it's so easy to hop on a podcast and talk about AI and
Yeah.
creative and connecting with your community. But again, your case studies and how you've built your team is truly driving that impact. And it's not just you hopping on a podcast and talking about it. So it's been amazing having both of you on, and just thank you so much. I can't wait to see what else we can talk about at House of Amazon.
I'm really excited. Thank you for having me.
Thank you.